This story originated from claims by Dr. Ray Brown, that aired on the History Channel. There are simply not enough facts to say whether or not these new findings are true, but nonetheless it is interesting, and has some interesting elements to it. It is important to note that because something is not in mainstream media it does not mean it is fake. However, this one simply doesn't have much else to go along with it, so we cannot say yes or no about this one. Read at your own discretion. I highly recommend you watch the story of Dr. Ray Brown in the video below. His eye movements according to an LP suggest that he is not lying about the story but is in fact recalling it kinesthetically. Whether we are into researching fringe subjects, or don't spend time on it at all, we probably have all heard of the Bermuda Triangle at some point. The Bermuda Triangle is a mysterious, unworldly, and sometimes deadly place on Earth that has had scientists scratching their heads for decades. Researchers have spent much time and energy looking into the mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle, and many have told some amazing stories. The triangle doesn't come without speculation though. The bizarre time anomalies, disappearances and weird phenomena are able to be explained by natural occurrences in certain cases. But many cases still leave questions unanswered. What you could call more outside-the-box ideas insist that relics of an advanced, unknown culture left behind technology and great energy machines that literally warp space-time. There appears to be a speculative discovery that has been made by French explorers that is being considered a monumental discovery. It is believed they discovered a partially translucent, crystal-like pyramid rising from the Caribbean Sea, but its origin, age and purpose are completely unknown at this point. The picture below is fascinating. These potential amazing underwater pyramid structures were first identified using sonar technology according to oceanographer Dr. Verlag Meyer. In terms of the size of this ray-discovered pyramid, it is larger in scale than the pyramids of ancient Egypt. Interestingly, on the top of the pyramid are two very large holes. Water moves at high speeds through one of the holes, causing waves to roll by forming a giant vortex. This causes a massive surge of waves and mist on the surface of the sea. Scientists are now pondering a new idea: is this vortex effect explaining what has been happening with disappearing passing boats and planes in the mysterious Bermuda Triangle? Potential new discovery challenges current archaeological theory. If the pyramid does in fact exist, it is technically not a new discovery, as it was initially identified by a Dr. Ray Brown in the 1960s, and since has been independently verified by diving teams from France and of the United States. Nonetheless, this ray discovery has rocked scientists around the world. More on Dr. Ray Brown's experience. He came upon this structure while scuba diving in the Bahamas. He investigated the structure, and was amazed that the sides of the pyramid were completely smooth and the joints between the individual blocks to be nearly imperceptible. Upon entering the pyramid, Ray was further astounded by the clean, smooth sides of the interior. No algae or coral grew on the walls. Inside the pyramid, Ray was fascinated by the various structures and items he saw inside. At one point he attempted to remove a multifaceted red gemstone attached to a metallic rod that descended from the center of the ceiling, but was unable to dislodge it. As he continued on, about 4 feet below the point of the gemstone, he saw a bronze sculpture of two open hands. Resting in the open hands is a now famous crystal sphere that he was able to take from its resting place. 4 inches in diameter, Ray was surprised that he could lift the crystal sphere easily. Generally, we would think humanity would rush to discover more about this. Funding and resources could easily be granted to discover what is going on with the pyramid, the vortex, and why it is all happening in the Bermuda Triangle. But it is much more likely that little to no more research will be done, as it is often easier to ignore such discoveries that challenge mainstream science and news. It is also believed that further study of this pyramid could confirm what some engineers believe about pyramids, in that they were originally designed and created as massive power sources. This could also make a bigger stake for the ancient city-state of Atlantis and possibly provide answers to the mysterious happenings that have been recorded since the 19th century in the region of the Atlantic known as the Bermuda Triangle. The ancient Greek Pythagoreans of the 5th century BC believed that the sun was a gigantic crystal ball larger than the earth, which gathered the ambient light of the surrounding cosmos, and refracted it to earth, acting as a giant lens. A giant lens? In the 5th century BC? Perhaps it was because nobody until now has been willing to recognize that lenses existed in antiquity, and that the crystal sun idea was overlooked, and has never been described in any books on the history of science or philosophy. However, it appears in my book The Crystal Sunday. What, then, is all this about ancient lenses? Surely some mistake. The fact is that I have located more than 450 ancient lenses in museums all around the world, and I even own a Greek crystal lens of the 6th century BC myself. Photos of many of these ancient lenses appear in my book. Anyone interested in full details of the actual lenses themselves should obtain the hardback edition of my book, because 10 appendices full of such detailed information have been omitted from the paperback, because the book was too thick. Ancient lenses. Well, how far back do they go? The earliest actual lenses, which I have located, are crystal ones dating from the 4th dynasty of Old Kingdom Egypt, circa 2500 BC. These are to be found in the Cairo Museum and 2 are in the Louvre in Paris. But archaeological evidence showing that they must have been around at least 700 years earlier has recently been excavated at Abydos in Upper Egypt. A tomb of a pre-dynastic king there has yielded an ivory knife handle bearing a microscopic carving, which could only have been done under considerable magnification, and of course can only be seen with a strong magnifying glass today. Thus, we know that magnification technology was in use in Egypt in 3300 BC. I reproduce both photos and drawings of this crucial evidence. But magnification technology was not of interest merely for making and viewing small carvings. Its most important use was in telescopes. In fact, on the jacket of my book the reader will encounter an ancient image of someone looking through a telescope. This is a photo I took of a fragment of a Greek pot excavated about 20 years ago at the Acropolis in Athens, and dating to about the 6th century BC. If there is all this evidence, why has no one ever talked about it before? The answer seems to be that unique capacity for stupidity, which so distinguishes the human race, for obstinacy and the determination not to see. I call it consensus blindness. Everybody agrees not to look at things that make them uncomfortable, or which they think shouldn't exist. Therefore, the fact that more than 450 ancient lenses have been sitting around in the world's museums for all of these years, and have been invisible is explicable only by invoking the theory that people subconsciously conspire not to see what they don't want to see. It is not as if I have come up with a little bit of vague evidence, and want to use it to construct some wacky theory of my own. There are plenty of people crying in the wilderness with theories based on a little bit of disputed evidence. That is not the case with my book at all. I am standing right in the center of the town square surrounded by a mountain of evidence, which can only be ignored, if people are so determined to look the other way, that they are prepared to walk around with their necks crooked. I attended the 8th International Congress of Egyptologists in Cairo in the spring of 2000, and went prepared to deliver a paper on ancient Egyptian optical technology. But I was not allowed to deliver it. I was told there was no appropriate category. Alas, it is true that there was no such category, as I was the only historian of science present at the congresses of 1,500 people, a fact which I found rather depressing. It might be worthwhile to review just why my discoveries are so important for Egyptology, and everyone interested in the pyramids needs to know about them as well. First of all, there is the famous question of the orientation of the Great Pyramid. It is so perfectly oriented to the geographical points of the compass, that no one has ever been able to understand how this was done, for the accuracy exceeds any hitherto known technology of ancient Egypt. Then there is the equally famous question of how the extreme accuracy of the construction of the Great Pyramid was possible. In 1925, J. H. Cole discovered in his survey that the Great Pavement, upon which the Great Pyramid partially rests and which surrounds it, is flat to within 15 millimeters. Earlier scholars had commented that the accuracy of the surface of the Great Pyramid was equivalent to the accuracy of the grinding of an optical reflective mirror in a giant modern telescope. The original, now largely destroyed casing stone sides of the structure have been compared in their precision to the mirror of the Mount Palomar telescope. How were such feats accomplished?